Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. This is the next installment of an 8-week series, Weddings 101 according to School of Van Horne. Today's episode is all things food. I'm going to be walking you through some tips and things to consider when you are choosing your menu. So let's not waste any time, let's get to it. All right, so you're choosing your menu. What could be more fun than choosing the food that you're gonna have on your special day? But believe it or not, this can be one of the most difficult things to do in the planning process. So I just wanna give you a few things to think about because at the end of the day, there's no right way to choose your menu and there's no standard for what menu you have to have. It is entirely up to you. First things first, determining how much food is enough food. Now this is something that I am constantly debating with my clients. A lot of the times we default to tradition and what's typically done. But I want to challenge you to step outside of what's typically done and to do what's right for you, starting with choosing the amount of courses that you're going to have. So I touched on this in my other video, but just to recap, you have your traditional plated menu, you've got buffet menus, and you've got stationed menus. Now the difference between buffets and station menus is that a buffet has a beginning to an end. You walk in one side, you fill your plate up with food, and you exit the other. A station menu is meant for mingling, where guests walk up to different stations and they eat on the go. It's not necessarily meant to have a menu that you eat with a fork and knife. So I'm going to start off by talking about plated menus. Plated menus are the typical traditional wedding meals that you're going to have. You can have 3 courses, 4 courses, 5 courses, and sometimes 6 courses for those of you that really like to eat. But what I want you to ask yourself here is, how do you eat when you go to restaurants? We're often told that we have to have a certain amount of courses because it's just what's done. But you may want to put that money somewhere else. You may want an extra station during your cocktail hour versus past hors d'oeuvres. You may want to have more late night options. So you don't necessarily have to pile up on the courses for your main menu. If you think about it, when you go to a restaurant, you usually don't end up ordering 3 separate courses, maybe on certain occasions, but not in your everyday. So don't feel necessarily that you need to have the 4 or 5 course meals. If it's in your budget and you know that dinner is very important to you for that night, then you may want to spend the extra time and have your guests seated. But remember, more courses means longer dinner service, which means longer wait time to get to the dancing. So you're going to want to consider, how long do you ultimately want dinner to be? On average, for a plated meal, I think it's pretty good to allot yourself about 35 minutes for appetizer courses and pasta courses and pretty much anything that isn't your main meal. And for the main meal, you're going to want to leave 45 minutes to an hour, as people typically eat that course slower and there's usually speeches and things going on throughout your dinner. Now, in terms of it being enough food, 3 courses is plenty. You're going to want to start with a simple appetizer of either a soup, a salad, maybe a crab cake, or a plated antipasto, and then you're going to go into your main course. For your main course, it's really nice to give your guests a selection so that they can choose between different options. It's a little more work on the back end of things because you have to be pretty organized with your RSVPs, but believe me, they will appreciate it, especially if you're offering beef as your main, because not everybody likes their beef cooked the same way. A little tip I give my couples is, if you don't want 4 courses, but you definitely want a pasta course, but you're unsure what to do about the salad, ask your venue if they offer a bowl of salad per table as a service. It's typically cheaper than serving an individual plated salad, and that way you're not getting rid of that element altogether, but you're saving time as it's served with the entree course. So you can still have 4 courses, but you can condense it down to 3 timing-wise. Now let's talk about dessert, because I'm pretty passionate about this one. So many times I hear my couples say that they don't want to order dessert because, like,
nobody even eats the dessert. Remember so-and-so's wedding? There was literally full dessert plates everywhere.
Which I completely understand. However, do you want to be the person that served dessert and nobody ate it, or do you want to be the person that didn't serve dessert and everybody talked about it? I'll let you choose. Obviously. Now, if you're looking to do things a little bit different and you're just not sure how to make it all come together, why don't you consider putting food in other areas? You don't have to tack on courses to make it look like you spent a lot of money at your wedding. But what you could do is have an extra element in your cocktail hour or have an extra element in your late night. I find in my experience that these are usually what gets bragged about the most from your guests. Lots of people have had great dinners and they'll definitely rave about the food during dinner. But during cocktail hour is the start and it's the first impression of your wedding. So to have not just past hors d'oeuvres or a simple antipasto station, but to do something fun during that time is definitely going to be memorable for your guests, as it's going to be one of the first things that they eat, and they usually haven't had much to drink at this point, so they'll really appreciate it. Now, what are some ideas for making it fun? I've seen everything at this point. I've had people do Montreal smoked meat sandwich stations. I've had people do create your own slider stations. I've also had people do gourmet grilled cheeses, which is a nice little spin on a classic favorite. Or you could incorporate something a little more daring, like a particular type of seafood station. Maybe have someone walking around shucking oysters on the go. Or you could try something interactive, like a flaming cheese station. I've done a lot of fun things for cocktail hour, and believe me, the guests will be talking before you even open the room. What could be better than that? Now let's talk my personal favorite, late night food. Late night food is that little bit of food you serve later on in the evening for the drinkers in the crowd, and those who like to stick around and eat. But usually at this point, people have had some drinks, they've been dancing, people are starting to feel a little bit peckish, and they're ready for another round. So, what can you do for your late night? Everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. You can have just as much fun as the rest of the night. You can do tacos, you can do poutine stations, you can do pasta stations, you can do pretty much anything you can think of. Or find a way to incorporate something a little more personalized that says something about you as a couple. Maybe serve the type of food that you had on your first date. Maybe do something cute that you like to have when you're out at fairs and festivals. There's lots of opportunities to put a little bit of personality into your late night food, and believe me, your guests will love it. One thing I do get asked about in regards to late night a lot is, do you go sweet or do you go savory? And my answer is, try to incorporate both. At the end of the day, there's some people that simply will only eat sweet later on in the evening, and there's some people that only crave savory. So just make sure that you provide a selection of at least one option for each, because that way you have a better chance of satisfying all of your guests as much as you can. Also, if you want to have a wedding cake, but you're not really a big wedding cake person, order it for half your guest count and have the venue serve it as your late night sweet option. This way, you're killing two birds with one stone. You only have to order cake for half your guest count, and you have a better chance of people eating it. Now, when you get into the nitty-gritty with your venue, here's a couple things that I want you to consider. For one, when you're at your menu tasting, you're gonna wanna get a sense of the quality of the product that they use and their style and presentation in serving these dishes. You don't necessarily need to try everything that you're gonna serve at your tasting, and most venues usually don't give you the opportunity to do so. So you may be hesitant to serve something that you haven't tried. As long as you've tried the quality of the food, you'll have confidence in their ability to recreate any of the dishes that you choose. I cannot stress this enough though. It's very important that you talk to your venue about food and what the options are before you sign your contract. Now, I'm not saying get them to pull out their catering package and explain every dish to you. I'm talking about what is the process, when do I have to make my final decisions by, and how much flexibility do I have in making changes to the menus that they offer. You're gonna wanna know this because if you choose a venue that only has a set amount of options, you're kinda stuck with what they've got. So all in all, have fun, enjoy choosing your menu, and ask yourself what's gonna leave the best impression with my guests. And make your choices fun and exciting for you as well, because this is your day. But as a final note, and I can't stress this enough, you are not gonna keep everybody happy. Believe me, it's impossible. I also want to point out, you can serve the same food to 200 people, and 100 think it's the best menu they've ever had, and 100 think it was all right. And at the end of the day, they're just being them. People that complain are gonna complain no matter what you do. So trust me, you're gonna wanna have fun and believe in what you're having, because it's for you and it's for the people that are there to enjoy and celebrate. I hope this gives you a little bit of peace of mind when you're choosing your menu, and that I gave you a few things to think about. Is there anything I didn't cover, and do you have any questions? If so, leave me a comment and I will definitely let you know my thoughts. Be sure to stay tuned for my next installment. Check out my other videos, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.